purpose of the exhibition is pretty straightforward. It's to essentially communicate back some of the findings of some research we've been doing for the last couple of years. We've been from Aberystwyth University visiting Newtown for 2.5 years now, interviewing various people and talking to various stakeholders about the town's history, the town's development, and trying to find out about people's future. And all of that is basically an analysis that we've done within a university environment. And what we're trying to do with this exhibition is just present some of that story back in a simplified form, but present the story back to the town and say to people, what do you think?
How would you describe Newtown to a stranger? I would find it quite difficult, but a few of my friends have described Newtown to me, one coming from Liverpool and one coming from London, and they've always described Newtown as just an honest town.
If a stranger coming out, the first thing I'll do is take them to the park, show them the river. I think if Newtown didn't have a river, it wouldn't be Newtown. It'd be different. I think the river makes the town, and we're so lucky to have all that space. You know, you can walk all the way to right down to the college. If you go that way, you can walk all the way to Welshpool, which is amazing, you know. And we've got this beautiful park in the middle of it all with lots of wildlife, beautiful trees which change colour all season.
It's a nice place to visit during the day and the shops are lovely, but I just don't, you know, I would say it's not the best place to have an evening these days.
Worst thing is probably just that it's a bit dull. It's not lively, like Hunter's
And
really
there's no
lively.
nightclub here anymore.
There's no nightclub, that's an important one.
Yeah,
But
place to dance.
Small market town. It used to have an agricultural market, sheep, cattle and horses at one time.
It's difficult to describe to a stranger. I'd probably start off by saying something like that. It's one of the oldest new towns in the UK. It's got a lot going for it. We're outside the Oriel Gallery at the moment. There's the Theatre Havron. We have civic buildings in places like Sarah Briscoe House, where the town council is. So there's history there. Got the hospital that actually predates the NHS. We've got the Motte and Bailey in these grounds, which used to protect the town in medieval times. So it is a mixture. It's a mixture of old and new. We have the industrial estates. It's a good place to bring up kids, I would think.
So fast forward 35 years, if you're getting 94 houses built on Motte Tree and you're getting more houses down by Canal Road, that's enough to have more people selling more stuff. I think, who knows? It's only as close as Newtown want to be. The problem with Newtown, I think, personally, is the people that are at the top at the moment aren't looking after the town, they're trying to look after everything.
I've lived in Newtown since 1977. We moved here as a new town. My parents had got jobs here, and in those days, if you got a job, you got a house. And we heard of Newtown because we used to holiday in mid Wales from the English Midlands. We're over in Aberystwyth, and one of the ladies over there said, I've heard of this new town, and you might want to go and investigate if there's jobs available there. That's what they did, and that's how we ended up here.
Since 1974, around that time, yeah.
I was born in Newtown, and that was in 1952. And I've lived in Newtown since then.
First came to Newtown in 1971. Like so many people, I moved into the town because of my job. At that time I worked for NatWest Bala. They transferred me to Newtown. I worked there for about 4 years, but I've retired recently after over 40 years in the civil service in Newtown. I also worked in a LP making factory, otherwise called vinyl these days, and also had a short period with the Farmers Union of Wales.
I'd like to see it all pedestrianised with lots of trees up the centre of where the roads would be, with lots of bistros and lots of little cafes.
It's an ideal chance now to share our lovely town all around the world, and it just needs marketing better, me personally. You know, we got Motte and Bailey castles, we got rivers, we got nice lovely walks, and you know, there's a lot of features in the town and not even listed really.
There are so many cuts now in local services and government services. There's got to be a time where you can't cut anymore. If I can turn that on its head, imagine people trying to beat the 100 metres record. Nobody's ever going to do the 100 metres in 2 seconds, so that there's got to be a limit. To invest in the future, that's what's actually needed.
Superficially, there won't be many changes. What will have changed, I hope, is interconnectivity where we're genuinely able to quickly connect with other places in the United Kingdom and indeed all over the world. A lot of infrastructure development's got to take place to enable that to happen. We need jobs in high technology as well as some of the basic caring jobs.
$20.35.
17 years away.
I think it'd be pedestrianised, it'd be sales up, there'd be reasons to sit in town, listen to buskers, there'd be probably community groups, older people in wheelchairs, someone mentoring someone on a skateboard, someone performing, people from the theatre doing stuff, people putting live shows on. Punch and Judy, how cool does that sound for your kids to sit around, your grandchildren?
You know, we've got a lot of you know, bigger companies. Obviously we've got the KFC and we've got McDonald's, and I think there's a Costa coming as well, and there's that, and you still see the kind of small businesses sort of thriving in Newtown. There's still that kind of small town spirit, but I expect more bigger companies coming in and just giving more jobs to people, and that's what I expect I'll see, I imagine, because that's what I'm seeing now, and that's what I've been seeing for the last 10 years or so, I guess, or longer. Wetherspoon's another fine example. So the way it's going, that is how I probably see it ending up, I think anyway. That's just my sort of loose prediction.
How does Newtown survive in the globalisation? I think the only answer to that is with difficulty.
You know, it just needs to accept change, really, and understand that change is fine and natural. The worry there, of course, is that it changes so point that the place becomes unrecognisable and then you lose that lovely little subculture which is there. It's important, but at the same time, there's got to be it's all about compromise, really, I think, with accepting change, but also holding on to what's true and real to the place at the same time.
I think these days it's probably about finding niches. So we can't compete with huge urban areas, but as we've shown in the past, what's more global than the mail order business starting in Newtown? If we didn't have the mail order business, there wouldn't be Amazon, and you can't get much more global than that. So I think you can find that niche.
You can buy a fashionable watch for 99p, including postage from China. How does this make you feel?
Shocking. I'd never do that. Why would you do that? Absolutely not. Poorly made, bad conditions.
We don't have everything here, shall we say, so it's so much easier for someone to go online and clickety-click and then it's there the next day. Whereas, you know, you really got to put the effort in around here for certain things. It can definitely suffer as a result of that.
Globalisation, I think that's a double-edged sword, really. So it's taken things away from Newtown and it's contributed to Newtown as well. Overall, I would say it has to be positive.
There's some advantages and disadvantages. Me personally, it was a big advantage because I saved a 500-year-old oak tree that was on our land, and our family have been caretakers for that tree for 400 years. And for 5 years I was a lone soldier, and then I was advised to get it on social media, and to be honest, it was just fantastic. I mean, I had 5,300 people signed a petition to the Welsh Assembly Government to move the route to save the tree. The route, because it was moved a little bit, the route of the bypass, didn't affect anybody else because it was all on our family farm. And so social media, and it played a huge part in saving that tree.
Well, on the negative side, it means big corporations, bigger than governments, almost running governments into the ground. Positive benefits, I think, would be people should be able to get in touch with other people at an individual, personal level.
When we moved here in '77, we were used into the Midlands in those days, the heady heights of Sainsbury's going to shopping and those sort of things, and Newtown at that point had no supermarkets. So when we came here, we bought something, as we call them, matzos, and you couldn't buy them in Newtown. These are only available in supermarkets outside the area. And I don't know if that's really globalisation, but it's one of those things that just by moving to the area, we brought a part of our culture with us. And people still say we are the people who introduced them to giant matzo crackers.
It's hard to separate out influences of globalisation from just changes in the way people are educated, changes in people's ambitions, changes in people's experience. You hope that it means that people are more open to outside influences, more able to accept difference, more able to be tolerant and reflective. On the other hand, it may just mean that some people feel they're excluded from the benefits of that and they become resentful, frightened, tremulous even.
I think that the future for Newtown is really quite positive. We've got the new bypass coming along, which will obviously make some differences to the town.
The bypass going over Newtown, you're losing business in Newtown because no one's going to stop in here. It doesn't have any main attractions to come to, so people are going to keep driving past. There's nothing to come here for.
That's one hell of a good question. 50 million. I'd have cycle tracks. That would be a must. I'd have walks. I'd open the countryside and nature walks, nature trails. Get into the schools with nature, you know, get them back to basics, because I think we've got to go backwards or go forwards.
I work in the NHS, so I'd spend it on the NHS and make sure there was more access to people to receive medical care.
Straight away off the top of my head, I'd immediately improve the health facilities. Second thing, I think I'd look at education, improving the whole fabric of our schools. School of which I'm a governor has to have buckets when it rains in the corridors. That's totally unacceptable. Goodness knows how it got to that state.
We just enjoy the fact that people know each other. When you walk around, you see people in the streets that you know, or if you meet somebody you don't know, they always know someone that you know, so that's a really positive thing. And it's got a bit of an old, sort of old-fashioned type of feel, but old-fashioned in a good way. But it also has got quite an outward-looking feel as well. So it's quite a nice mix of modern and some old-fashioned things as well.
You've got to come, really. You've got to come and visit because it's got its own sort of personality. It's now starting to get the same national chains that you get in anywhere else, but it's still got that weird culture about it. It's likeable and quaint.